Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on March the 19th, 2019. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, my brain just went blank and I had a name for you, I promise. It's...
Caffeine Rage, and let's be honest, your brain is usually blank.
That is fair. On today's show, we will of course be discussing the games that we've played this week. Google enters the gaming Stadia. The Steam Link Anywhere gives you PC access, well, anywhere if you have the bandwidth. We'll have our weekly community corner. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing all right. You're getting a little bit of a robotic every so often. I'm not sure if that's me, you, or just the U.S. internet to begin with, you know? Because,
yeah.
And it's rather poignant this week, huh?
Yes, indeed. That is going to come up a couple of times. Make sure I'm not accidentally downloading something, because I redeemed all those keys, or that key, and then I had a bunch of updates on Steam. I mean, everything's shut down. I don't know. Katie might be doing something, hogging all the bandwidth. Oh, I didn't leave the 4K YouTube video up.
That would have been hilarious.
That would have been. Although I think I would have noticed before now if I'd left that running. But, I don't know. If it keeps happening, I might try and see if I can do something. If we can do something about it. Anyways. Yeah, my brain, for some reason, is just not firing on all thrusters tonight. All it keeps playing is the My Little Pony theme song. Over and
Once
over.
again, this seems like the usual state. It's just you don't voice it.
No, I mean, I've always liked My Little Pony. Like, I've never kept that a secret, but I typically go through phases with things, and my last My Little Pony phase was several years ago. But my kid recently discovered My Little Pony, and he loves it. So I've seen 6 hours of My Little Pony in the last few days. So
well, you would either love it at the end of that or be begging for death. There's no in between.
Well, it's a good thing I love My Little Pony. Friendship is magic. That's a potential for the show title today. We'll see what we get from probably discussing Stadia, but friendship is magic. But yeah. Also, it was a very physical day at work today, which doesn't usually happen for me, but they just came in and they were like, hey, today's the day that we're moving offices. You have to move your office. And I'm like, what? I'm not even halfway through my first cup of coffee. And they're like, too bad. Get your office moved. And I'm like, fuck. So I had to move my desk and the filing cabinet and all my chairs. I've got a bigger office now. So, I mean, it's a positive move for me. But they just, like, sprung it on me. And it was a lot of manual labor because I didn't have anyone to help me. Everyone was having to move their office around. So it was a very...
that sounds entertaining, you know, just the traffic jam in the hallway.
It was me and...
there's a desk jackknife around the corner.
There were a couple of wrecks. Me and the person who took my office, like, I swapped offices with this person, and she and I just kept walking back and forth, like, past each other in the hallway, and we, like, made a game of it, and we're, like, doing, like, making silly faces and, like, cracking jokes and stuff on our mini trips back and forth. They're changing up a whole bunch of stuff in the office, trying to increase efficiency for the med staff, and there's not really much you can do to increase efficiency of counselors, no matter how hard they try, because therapy can't be done in, 15 minutes or less. So
at least with that attitude,
they're like, fuck it, we'll just cram you guys in the back, and all of the big executive offices are in the back. So I've got a really big, nice office now that has got, like, 2 separate areas in it. It's, like, got my little office space in the corner with, like, all my shelves and my desk and...
your Dickens cradle?
Yes. My 2 computers. I have 2 computers now. That's odd because both of them are kind of shit. But hey, I got 2 shit computers, so I'm the king of shit mountain at my office.
Oh, there's another potential show title.
That is. But then I've also got another separate therapy area with multiple chairs set up in like a circle. We're all gonna sing Kumbaya. Everyone's gonna get better.
Yeah,
It's
but
gonna be
you
great.
may want to restrain from lighting that campfire.
Yeah.
I don't think the
Damn
building's
it.
up to code.
Damn it! I was about to start taking guitar lessons so I could play Kumbaya, light a fire. But you know what? That's probably a bad idea.
And
Also,
for
no
too
one-
much effort for you to do that.
You got to commit though. Commit to the bit, and I would commit to the bit for something stupid, like just learning the chords to Kumbaya. Anyways,
Speaking of being committed,
yeah. I don't know how that's a segue to games, but unless you have something you want to add.
how about committing to my ever-loving hatred of most mobile games?
All right, that works. Go for it.
One Finger Death Punch, the Android version. 5 minutes of fun, then absolute and utter shit.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure I talked about One Finger Death Punch probably months or like a year and a half ago at this point. Because, we've been doing this for a while.
We have
One
been.
Finger Death Punch is essentially what it sounds like. It is a fighting game / rhythm game where, on the PC version, it's clicking either the left or right mouse button in sequence, or on mobile, hitting or tapping the left or right side of the screen. And there's various power-ups that you could eventually get, or different combat styles, at least on the mobile version. I can't remember if that's on the PC version or not, but let's just put it this way. One Finger Death Punch, the mobile game, it's a mobile game in the worst sense of the words. There's a stamina system, and mind you, rounds in this game are sub 30 seconds usually, okay? Outside of like boss battles that are essentially just like long Guitar Hero-esque sections of left, right, left, right, 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 left, right, that sort of thing. So, sub 30 seconds, and once you're past like the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game, every single match after it is an ad. That's longer than the fucking match I just finished.
Oh, it's one of those mobile games.
Yes, it's one of those. So you can see why, I kind of had a slight distaste. On top of having a stamina system that slowly regenerates, but it's also one of those that front loads you a bunch of stamina, and it also expects you to go back and grind stuff to be able to either buy it in the store with the free currency, or just swipe your card to be able to pay with the premium currency. So like I said, it's a mobile game in every sense of the word, right?
Yeah.
Which was sad because at the very beginning I was having fun with it, and there was an ad like every 5 or 6 matches, and it was like, okay, it's a little annoying that I'm seeing one about every 5 to 8 minutes or so, but it's okay. But then they started more and more frequent, the boiling frog thing, and then it was after every single fucking match, and that's when I just uninstalled it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, does it not do that if you go to airplane mode?
I actually didn't test it because, for one, finding airplane mode is still a little bit difficult for me because I switched, not operating systems, but versions. So things are a little hidden right now. I think it's just further back in the settings. So, or I should say the quick select on all the settings, because I'm running the latest version of Android now with the new phone.
Right.
So, there's a little bit of a learning curve on the OS, not as much as going from like Apple to Android, but there is still a little bit there. But it's just, I just had such a distaste for it. And even, switching to airplane mode, well, this is supposed to be a time killer while I'm chatting with, a friend or two online. So if I go airplane mode, it kind of defeats the entire fucking purpose, doesn't it?
That's a fair point.
Because airplane mode that shuts down Wi-Fi and mobile data, doesn't it? And turns off the phone,
It
essentially.
doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it shuts down Wi-Fi and mobile data. You can do airplane mode with Wi-Fi on, but then I assume you would get the ads back, so that defeats the purpose of it.
Yeah, which defeats the entire purpose. And also, well, it may just be because my phone is new, as in the new latest model, and also I went with the Plus model, so some of the buttons in the middle, it's not entirely left right. There's also buttons that you get hit for various power-ups. Like if you do a certain number of correct moves in sequence, you get a power-up called the One. Care to guess what that does?
That could do a few things related to the Matrix, so...
essentially just instant one-hit kills on everything, which everything is pretty much one-hit kills outside of the multi-taps. But it's more flying across the map, because before that, you have to be within a range, essentially. And if you pick up a weapon during the match, it extends the range. But it just makes you basically fly back and forth like Batman in the Arkham series, just bouncing around like a pinball ball.
Yeah.
Or fall in a pinball machine, I should say. But because the screen is a little bit taller than what they designed for, it was hard for me to hit. Which, yeah, it wasn't exactly necessary in the early levels. But, they were expecting me to grind down and watch a ton of ads, and just no. Hell no. No. So, yeah. No, sir, I don't like it.
Well, that... Good to know, I guess. It definitely doesn't sound like something I'd be interested in.
Which is a shame, because I actually like the PC version. But it's just utter shit on mobile. It makes me wonder... Well, I shouldn't say it makes me wonder, because I know exactly what it is. I'm not the demographic for this. But it does make me wonder just how people have put up with mobile games like this. Because I understand, people have to eat, We're going to be talking about that a little bit later. You have to monetize these things, but it's monetization to such a degree that it is severely off-putting is a bit much. And this is on top of a store, and unless I missed it, there was no option to go in and disable ads, shelling over a few bucks. So, it's a mobile store that has ads no matter what.
Yeah, that sucks. I like to, pay whatever, and there's no more ads.
No, you're going to have your ads after every 30 seconds, and you're going to like it. Or just install the game. Gary, guess what I chose?
I assume you uninstalled the game.
Yeah, then I went and bought a damn game to try to find something actually halfway decent. And this was one that's popped up a few times that I've seen on, on a list that's usually titled Android games are actually good. Or something along those lines, or Android games are actually games. So I got Galaxy Trucker, which is a mobile port of a board game, which has recently come to Steam as well. And, well, for one, the mobile version's $5, and it has a $5 expansion that you could also buy. So, hey, no PC tax going around, because the Steam version is $10, and it includes the expansion. Way to go there, huh?
Yeah. Good to see good to see that. Or good to not see that.
Or, something, right?
Yeah.
So, Galaxy Trucker, like I said, is a board game where you're building a spaceship, and, well, the mobile version and PC version has a campaign mode that's attached to it, where it's kind of slanting the deck one particular way or another, depending on the mission that you're on. But the pure basis of it is that you're building a ship out of essentially junk parts and with some weapons strapped on, some engine strapped on, a little bit of life support. And you're trying to get it to your destination to essentially sell it for scrap. And the way that the game is actually presented is actually really interesting. It's highly competitive, actually from the start. Where and I'm just going to go through the entire journey, and then kind of highlight some of the differences in the mobile version. Now, I have never played the board game version, so anyone that's played the board game version and I get wrong, I apologize. But they kind of lean towards the mobile-esque stuff on this. So you start off with a grid depending on your ship class. Essentially, Class 1 is the smallest. Class 2 is a bigger ship. Class 3 is an even bigger ship. And there's various alternate configurations that you can have. Essentially just a slightly different shape to the ship, to the grid that you can put stuff in. And on the mobile version, they push you towards the real-time building aspect, where you and all your opponents are grabbing cards out of the middle at the same time, and you're trying to throw together the ship the fastest. And each card is one of, I think it's 7 or 8 different types, at least so far in the campaign. There may be more. And cards can have up to 4 different connection points, and one of 3 different connection types. Now, this is going to sound confusing, but bear with me here. There's either what they call in the rules the smooth side, a universal side. Well, I guess I should have said 4 types, because smooth is technically, lack of a connection is still a connection, depending on how you look at things. Mm-hmm. Either no connection, a single connection, a double connection, or a universal, which is, could it connect to either a 1 or a 2. And you have to essentially just put all the cards together to be able to build a ship. And there's also some additional rules. Engines cannot have any cards behind them, and weapons cannot have any cards in front of them, depending on what way they're facing. And you could actually turn weapons to face different directions if the connectors allow for it. And that's kind of it's kind of a mixture of a strategy and randomness going on, because it is a card game technically, but you're not stuck with what you draw. You're able to just throw things back. But whenever you throw something back, you're leaving it face up. Everything before that is just face down ahead of you, and someone else could grab it. So it may be, I may throw away a part that, I don't need this. I can't imagine using it. Well, it may be something you need, so you're no longer having to hunt for it, and you can build your ship a little bit faster. So there's a evolving strategy going on that I really like in this. And you're also able, at least in the mobile version, to look at some of the adventure cards coming up to try to tailor your strategy to it. So let's say you see a lot of meteor showers coming in. Okay, where you're going to want a lot of weapons, a lot of shields, batteries to power things, that sort of thing. Or you may see, this adventure doesn't look too tough. There's some epidemics, so I want to make sure that all my life support pods aren't touching, essentially. So they're all cordoned off. Otherwise, that card hits you and you have to pay the penalty. Or you may see a dust storm, which that one is any card or any ship that has connectors attached to it, or exposed to space, I should say. They take a movement penalty and go backwards, which is actually important. So there's a lot of very rapid and evolving strategy going on just in the shipbuilding. And like I said, it's competitive right from the start. So you're grabbing things, you're trying to figure out your strategy, and you're also able to bank 2 cards or 2 component cards to hold on to build up into your ship. And whenever you reveal a new card, your ship is set. Up until that point, you're able to move the last card or rotate it, or decide, I don't like this card here, and you could discard it or put it into your bank. But you're committed once you draw the next card. So there's that evolving strategy going on. Then whoever finishes their ship first, they call time, and then there's a set time limit. I think it's 90 seconds for everyone else to finish off their ships. So if you really want to try to dick someone over, just build a very small, compact ship and force everyone to try to rush, which is a valid strategy. And I've seen the computer do that more than once. The computer actually is pretty decent in the mobile version, at least in the campaign mode, I should say.
Yeah, this sounds like this isn't, you've kind of described this to me off of recording, and it sounds like a very interesting game that I want to play. The actual board game version is in tabletop, right? Isn't
Yeah,
that how this came up? You were talking about.
yeah, a
Yeah.
potential game night thing.
Yeah.
Well, uh, there's a reason why you'd want to actually finish first, outside of trying to take over other people. And I would have to say, if we do this in tabletop, we'd probably want to add to the timer, just because that's the problem with tabletop. And also, one other thing is that all cards, if there's a connector, has to fit all connectors. So it's a lot more difficult than let's match 1-to-1. Well, there may be this spot has a 1, 2, and 2 twos on it, and then a smooth side on the other side, where you have to find the proper piece for it. So it's a lot more difficult than I'm making it sound.
Yeah.
So then you're off on your adventure. You have so many adventure cards, and you're drawing through them. Well, the guy that finishes their ship first is off in the lead, and cards resolve in the order of first to last. So that could be a double-edged sword depending on the adventure, or the adventure card, I should say, because you may come up against pirates and you have to fight them off first or suffer the penalty. Or you may come across an abandoned ship and give up some of your crew members to have them fly it off to be able to bank some money. So there's, once again, that element of strategy there, and it all comes down to how you build out your ship. Do you want to try to take the lead and get a potential bonuses on the adventure cards? Or do you want to kind of hang back and play a little bit safer because your ship it wasn't all that great,
Yeah.
So, like I said, there's a lot of interesting things going on here. And then once you hit the end of your trip, which at least in the mobile version was less than 10 cards usually, some of the longer ones was like 12 cards, you essentially cash out your ship. First person there gets the most value for their ship. There's a bonus for having the fewest. I'm pretty sure the prettiest ship bonus is the ship that has the fewest exposed connectors. You get bonuses for cargo that you were able to capture along the way, which usually getting cargo takes time, which pushes you back on your route, allows other people to catch up and potentially take the lead from you. Mm-hmm. And then you also lose money for any destroyed components. And then in the board game version, it's 3 adventures, and that's the end of the game. Person that's gotten the most money wins that game. And the mobile game and Steam game version of it, it's an evolving campaign. So you're going from between station to station, unlocking things, finding some actually decent humor in the game. Different routes have different things going on with it. Like one has a lot of meteor storms on it, so you have to build up a ship for that. One you're going through a war zone, so you have to deal with a bunch of pirates and that sort of thing, trying to loot the ships around. But you also have a potential of finding abandoned ships to be able to cash out. It's a very interesting board game. And it's completely cross-play as well. So from everything I could tell, I haven't actually played enough with the mobile version to be able to want to venture into the multiplayer scene yet. But from everything I could tell in the news, it is full cross-play, which is actually rather surprising.
That's good to hear, though. Will help with the longevity of it.
Yeah.
Finding games and stuff. If you don't have friends to play with, you don't play with AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there is a secondary mode of shipbuilding that I haven't toyed around enough with to really be able to figure out, but it's a turn-based, more like a traditional card game, taking turns, where things come along on a conveyor belt and you're able to grab off, and it all centered around action points. And you're also able to look at cards which... like in the real-time version, but that also costs action points. It's kind of a weird way to do it, but I could see it being a lot more strategic and a lot less frantic. but I think it also is going to rely a lot more on the randomness of things, because the real time is more your split second decision making, while strategic is more trying to figure out making the most out of your action points. I'm not sure which version I like the most. The real time is the one that's focused on the campaign mode, but it's an interesting little game. It was well worth the $5 I paid for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I'm gonna pick it up on mobile. I'm pretty close to having enough just from in my Google Play balance from surveys or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely pick it up. Maybe we can play sometime on mobile.
Yeah, maybe. I haven't, like I said, I haven't messed around with it enough in multiplayer to know if you could set up lobbies or if it's just completely random people. I'm trying to think of anything else. There's also aliens that you eventually unlock, or at least I should say eventually unlock in the campaign mode. That's also an interesting sub element of things. So each life support capsule, for lack of a better term, component, is able to hold 2 crew members. And depending on the card, you may want a large crew count, or you may want a small crew count, which, like I said, you could peek at beforehand. But you're also able to try to sort in life support for various aliens, which add a multiplier to your weapons or your engines, which could help make up for a bad luck of the draw or to extend your lead. It's like I said, there's some interesting strategy elements going on here. But the flip side of that is that only one alien can be in a capsule, and it has to have an attached life support system of that particular type. There's so far 2 aliens that I've encountered so far. So, it's giving up a crew member and potentially not having enough crew to be able to board a space station to loot it, or be able to harvest or I should say, be able to repair an abandoned spaceship to be able to go junk in exchange for having better weapons for other cards. Now, I think it's really going to depend on the person how they want to play it. It's really neat. I've been playing actually a fair bit of it.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, like I said, it sounds good, interesting. I'm definitely going to pick it up at some point. Typically, a game is really good whenever you're like, yeah, I really like it. This is neat. Or whatever. So.
Or I don't absolutely hate the model.
Yeah.
Because I'm like the anti-mobile guy.
Yeah.
I don't put up with a lot of mobile bullshit.
No, you definitely do not.
And speaking of not putting up with bullshit.
Yeah.
So, 2 Point Hospital. I'm torn on this one because I want to like some aspects of it, but there's some other aspects that just really put me off on it. Well, 2 Point Hospital is one of 2 hospital simulators that released last year. There was a more serious one that came out that I'm blanking on the name of, and 2 Point is essentially the spiritual sequel to Theme Hospital. And it does get a fair amount of things right. It has the humor down pat. It has kind of the sort of theme going on. Kind of a goofiness going on with a little bit of serious as well. But it feels so damn micromanagey. As in, each individual room not only requires the very basics that Theme Hospital did, but in order to get the rooms up in prestige, which is required for some of the challenges to be able to progress, or just to make the doctors happier, you have to micromanage every single room. You have to put a lot more stuff in it, and it gets a little bit tiresome, even with a copy paste tool, to be able to just set up the another general practitioner's office, which gets used a lot in the diagnosis process. Or setting up another scanning room to be able to set up a flow of people running through the hospital, which is a bit irritating. And also, it seems like they removed or they pushed the AI hospitals back so far that there's no competition. It feels like it's more the City Skylines model of just mess around with it until you win. which is fine and all if you're in the mood for it, but I was looking for a little bit more of a challenge going on. To be fair, I only played like the first half dozen levels, but there's not that many in the base game. And it also follows the, kind of the borrowed bubble-esque rules of, okay, well, you beat this level, but not really. There's 2 more challenge stars that are going to cause you to just either scrap everything or just sit here and wait and wait and wait. Which, like I said, I'm torn on it because I like the humor of the game. Seeing someone come in with mock star disease, as in they're dressed like Freddie Mercury dancing around. Or someone suffering a mom crisis, as in they're going around momming and have to be talked sense into. Or someone suffering from monobrow. Or there's a pandemic going around where someone is suffering from collecting too many kitchen gadgets and they're being fused with them. Or someone just having lightheadedness, as in their head is now a light bulb. Which is actually, that one I know is borrowed from the original game. Like I said, the humor is on point here. It's just it just feels like there's something missing, and I can't quite put my finger on what. To be fair, I only played during the free weekend, and it feels like it's a lot more of an expensive game than what it feels like in the actual content. You know what I mean? Where it feels like, okay, this would be a really good game for this price point, but it's like double it, you know?
Yeah. I know that feeling. I get that feeling a lot with the games that I play.
Yeah, I think it's just the simple fact that it feels like, at least in the first, I would say, half dozen or so levels, it's still on a very slow tutorial and there's no challenge, which may be partly my fault, just not going far enough in it. But it's also, there's not that many levels in this game. So, to have a lot of the challenge be, hit the 2 and 3 star stuff, that's a little troubling,
Yeah.
I mean, this is not a cheap game. This is a $25 game. And it feels like, it's a $15 game in my opinion. I mean, even on sale, it's still at $23. And they have 2 DLCs already at $9 a pop.
Okay. I was going to say, is 2 Point fully released, or is it supposed to be early access?
No, it's fully released. It's just one of those things. Well, to give you an idea of how micromanaging things are, in a bad way, I should say, is that the temperature control. All right. There's no central heating or cooling, at least as far as I got. So, in order to maintain proper temperature on the maps that are either too hot or too cold for people to just be able to walk around and be happy, you have to place radiators. All right, fairly standard. But rooms don't share heat, or they don't radiate off heat. So, there was one instance where people were half freezing to death when they went into the bathroom, but the bathroom doesn't have a doorway on it, so it's open air. But because I did not build a radiator in there, it still counted as this cold spot in my hospital. And I was trying to figure out why people were complaining about the cold. Well, it's because they went in the bathroom and the toilet seat was cold. And it's just that's one of those little things,
Yeah.
And also, research and training is also a little bit of a bugbear, in my opinion. So, each individual, staff member has various traits, but they also have different abilities that they learn. And as they essentially gain experience, as they work in the hospital, they rank up and unlock training points that they could get new attributes assigned to them, or new abilities assigned to them, I should say. Well, some rooms require certain traits. Not too bad. I can understand that. But the game could also utterly screw you if you're not getting a good roll of the dice and you're getting the doctors or the janitors that you need. And the reason why I say the doctors or the janitors mostly is that, okay, somebody dies, they leave a ghost. Only way to get rid of a ghost is to have a janitor that has the ghost capture trait. Or ghost capture ability. I'm using them kind of interchangeably, but they're 2 different things because traits are also how often, like, a doctor with a green thumb may water plants that's in their room or that they pass by whenever they're on break to take some pressure off your janitors. Or they may get hangry. And yes, that's actually a thing in the game where if they get too hungry, they start to get mean and start upsetting patients.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Katie gets very hangry.
Well, and I'm off my little train of thought here for a moment.
Sorry.
The training aspect, you are able to add the abilities to them, but it just takes so damn long that if you're getting a bad roll of the dice, well, you may as well restart the level because you're not going to get a psychiatrist that you need to deal with all the patients coming in that have like Mockstar syndrome. So your hospital is infested with Freddie Mercury's, and there's no way to deal with them, and you're not getting the money to be able to run your hospital. It's kind of a catch-22 there, right?
Yeah.
And kind of the same with research. To get research up and off the ground, you have to have a researcher, and that's a very particular attribute to be able to learn. So you either have to hold off your research until someone shows up with it, or eventually just train somebody with it. But that's rather expensive to be able to get a doctor and then train them to be a researcher and pretty much a dedicated researcher. So, and it's also time intensive because it's not exactly an easy thing to train a doctor.
No, takes time.
Yeah, it's not just you can't be done in 15 minutes. So there's that. It sounds like I'm nitpicking on that, but it's one of those things that it feels too random to be able to figure it out, or I should say, not be able to figure it out, but be able to. You require too much of a roll of the dice to get a decent enough start to be able to have your hospital sustain itself, which is irritating, especially in a management game like this. And it just feels like there's not that much of a challenge. And that's partly just due to not having to deal with AI. So, it's pretty much just, if you get a good enough start to be able to maintain, just hang on long enough to win. So I would put this more in like the sandbox management genre than anything else, which isn't bad, but it isn't what I was looking for because Theme Hospital got fucking difficult. Once you get past like the first several levels, the gloves came off, and then it put on the rubber glove, and it bent you over the examining table,
With very cold hands.
Oh, yeah. And I know I didn't unlock all the different features because I'm looking here on the Steam page, and I'm seeing there's buildings on fire, or I should say rooms on fire. So there was definitely that didn't show up yet, but... Oh, and also the game loved to bitch at me. It would complain that I didn't have enough janitors, then immediately start complaining that I had too many janitors because one came off break.
Well, okay. Video game logic right there.
Ding. Yeah, I would say, if this goes down a lot more in price, then I would say it's probably worth picking up as, a mess with the game. Assuming that, it doesn't get more difficult later on, which it may possibly do so. It's just, I may have still been in the tutorial section, which I will say that the tutorial level that they teach the training system is such a damn time sink that I nearly uninstalled it there because they set it up so no doctors had traits and you had to train everybody from scratch. Oh, dear God.
Seems like it'd be a slog.
Oh, yeah. It's just not at this price point. I think that's the main thing, not at this price point.
Right. Well, we're going to see what's all-time historic lowest price, $20, not on Steam, but all-time price, $20 somewhere, direct to drive.
Yeah, that's still a bit much in my opinion, at least based off the opening levels. May get a lot more interesting later on, but I have a feeling that After the seeing people run around with as mummies and moms and clowns and that sort of thing, it's just it starts to get once the the novelty of the humor wears off and you're left with more of a sandbox. It's for a very particular audience, and I'm not sure if it's for the audience that used to love Theme Hospital, which disappoints me.
Yeah. Because I know that you were really excited for this game when it was
Oh yeah.
First announced.
But I'm also a very tough critic.
True. Very true.
I mean, when it launched, it didn't even have a copy-paste feature for the rooms, so you were building every single room from scratch. I mean, they at least added that, but that's still... this is the city skylines of, in Theme Hospital, essentially, where it's more sandboxy.
Yeah.
It makes me want to kind of go check out the other one that's more serious now to see if they went with the more managerial route. And I'm blanking on the damn name of it now. Or I've been blanking on it, and I didn't want to go searching for it. Project Hospital. Yeah, which looks a lot more like Theme Hospital. Or I should say in art style, not in humor. But it looks like it's a lot... Well, it's not as rated, of course, because 2 Point is the one that got everybody's attention. But it looks like it's rated a little worse, but there's not as many vocal negative reviews. So it's there's kind of a trade-off there, huh?
Yeah. But hey, who knows? Maybe it's better. Maybe you'd like it more.
Maybe. Or maybe one of the DLCs adds more than what I wanted. But the fact that Sega's going to this route with the DLCs, 2 of them already.
Yeah.
2 of them within a year, I should say. That doesn't bode well, in my opinion.
Probably see a few more tacked on there soon enough.
Oh yeah. Speaking of tacking things on.
So the game we both played this week, Golf with Your Friends. It was the community game night game. This is a mini golf sort of game. I mean, it is, mini golf, but it gets all wacky with crazy courses and weird little stunts, and most things have more than one way to try and complete them. Sometimes courses have multiple routes, much more beyond the extent that mini golf does. There's lots of stuff that to do in real life would be impossible.
At least with that attitude.
And jump pads and boost pads and what was the one on the Candyland whatever when it was shooting out gumballs across?
Oh yeah.
There's lots of stuff like that. It's a pretty simple game to play. All you have to do is hold down the left mouse button and move the mouse forward or backwards to adjust your power, and then release, and away you go. It can be incredibly frustrating, though. I enjoyed it. I don't get quite as frustrated.
Well, I think it was the physics could be a little bit wonky at times, which annoyed me.
Yeah, they definitely could be. I think that's supposed to be part of the fun or part of the charm. Occasionally things go wacky. For the most part, I didn't have any issues, or didn't notice any issues with weird physics stuff.
I had a couple things that the game decided, no, you didn't make that putt, or no, you actually hit that rock in this way when everybody else hit it the other way,
Yeah.
Which irritated me.
We played through several courses last night, just one that was forest themed, one that was themed Egyptian, one that was prehistoric, dinosaurs and stuff, and then one that was Candyland. I enjoyed all of them. I liked the Candyland the best because it was bright and happy and very prettily colored. We had a lot of good laughs last night, but I think everyone had at least one really frustrating moment. Mm-hmm. Or, at least one. Cube had a I don't know if he'd had several really bad holes in a row and just like that last one was the last straw before he had to quit. But there was one, it was like, how do I describe this? Sort of like skee ball, except you had to go around the sides instead of going straight up the middle and then drop back down into the center where the hole was. And he just could not get it. Like, he kept overshooting it or not going hard enough. And then eventually he just was like, I quit. I'm done. And I mean, I don't blame him. If you're getting really frustrated with something, absolutely, like, don't draw it out and make it worse. But everyone had at least one of those moments last night playing it. Even I did. Things typically don't get to me, but I had one on the prehistoric course where I just could not get one. And I, stroked out. I couldn't even get past the starting spot. It took me 10 shots before I got past that first little curve. I kept falling off and being reset back to the beginning.
Yeah, and I had one that I timed out just as it went in the hole.
Yeah.
So I ended up adding several strokes to my count, and yeah, it just I realize that's kind of the name of the game, where it's just it is meant to be wacky, and but it's one of those games that I think is good for a round or two. If you play it for too long, it's just you're never going to want to play it again. I think it was a mistake to have it for an entire night. It should have been like a double feature or something.
Well, let's see. We played for about 90 minutes.
I would say that's probably about 45 minutes too long.
It felt about right to me. But I couldn't have played much longer. Like that last one, I was like, I could go either way. But after we finished that last course, I was like, okay, I'm done. I mean, I did need to start getting ready for work and stuff. But I mean, I could have stayed up a little bit later and played another round. But I just was like, okay, I'm done. So it took me about 4 or 5 courses to be done. Obviously everybody's got different limits. Probably 3 is about right, sort of right there in the middle. Because it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to play through a hole or through a course. You're limited to 2 minutes per hole, so technically it could take you up to 36 minutes.
That's a server setting.
Oh, okay. Well, we had it set to 2 minutes per hole, and really there was only that one time, or maybe a couple of times, where somebody timed out, but typically you were pretty close to your stroke limit at that point anyways, because you had gotten, I say you, not as in you specifically, but just the royal you would have gotten stuck at some point. The holes are generally really short. There is another side to this game, though. I could see somebody going in single player and trying to figure out the physics and either speedrun it or just maximize the wackiest shots in order to get really low stroke counts. Huh?
YouTube it. Yeah, the montage.
Yeah. And some of that stuff is pretty obvious. You can see if I was just good enough. There were a few where there was that one hole, I think it was on Candyland, maybe it was on the prehistoric one, but it was if you shot your ball off really far to the side, there was a little ramp you could go up, and it would drop you down right on top of the hole. And you could get that hole, I think it was a par 5. You could get it in 2 or maybe 1, a hole in 1 if you got really lucky with the right bounce or just did it enough to sort of learn exactly what you had to do. And it took me 7 shots to do it, but I just was I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do this until I get it or I stroke out. And that was actually pretty fun.
Stroke out from the game or your blood pressure?
Yes. Definitely yes. But I can see that side to this game, there being people who go hardcore and look at it as a challenge. And I could actually see myself doing that a little bit on some of the less crazy courses. Because there's definitely huge differences. Because the when it was the forest or the logging or whatever, the very first one that we did was very simple for the most part. There were 1 or 2 holes that had some interesting things in it, but that compared to the prehistoric course or Like, the Egyptian course was just brutal. That was just hard. The Candyland course was really wacky, and had lots of oddities to it, like mini holes that had multiple paths, multiple like chutes to go down, conveyor belts, and things like that would, move your ball around, sometimes throw it off the edge, or sometimes just sort of slam it into a wall and put you in a bad position for your next shot. And then the prehistoric map had some really difficult stuff too. To me, it felt like it had a mix of both, but so there's definitely some differences in difficulty for the courses. So maybe a couple of the easier ones I could see myself, plugging away at in an afternoon, trying to get a really low score for the course. But I don't feel like there's a ton of longevity for this. Most of it just comes like, hey, let's dick around with your friends, because everybody plays at the same time. I didn't see what all the server options are, but you can turn on ball collision so that you hit each other and knock each other around. Obviously, you can mess with the time settings, so you can make it frantics at a really low time.
There's also some physics options.
Okay, yeah. So you could do stuff like that, and that makes it. I think that's where most of the fun and the longevity for this game is at. Like, hey, let's all, mess around for an hour or two and shoot the shit. There's a little bit of the other side to it, but I don't think that's where the main focus of the game is. There were 5 of us last night, or were there 6? There's 5, yeah, 5. It goes up to 12 players. That could be pretty insane. But 5 or 6 probably feels about right. A good mix between enough players that, there's always something going on, but it doesn't feel hectic. That last one that we did with just 3 people was a little just because there wasn't much going on. But, I mean, I liked it overall. Not something I would go in on my own very often. Maybe not ever. But it's just like, if somebody was like, hey, I've got 30 minutes. Do you have 30 minutes to play a game with me? And if they suggested this, I'd be like, yeah, I'd play that. I'd play a round. Maybe 2, if we had enough time. But then that's it, That's it, and then I'm done. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Not really. I mean, I think I also have to be in the mood for it now. It just kind of soured on me after the first round.
Yeah.
So that probably didn't help things.
That's fair. Okie dokie. Well, then my first game that's just me is a game called Rise of Legions. This is a free-to-play game. I got early access to it over a month ago, and I just now got around to playing it, so I guess technically I didn't get to it early. But it's a single lane
tug of war game.
Tug of war game. There's nothing super special to it. It's got like a deck system, which a lot of these games have, and you build your deck. You can mix and match from the different factions. Different ones have different strengths and weaknesses. Sort of the one it starts you on is a balanced faction that's medieval themed. There's like a plant faction. A lot of their guys, a lot of their attacks do status effects. There's a demon faction. I think it's just called the dark faction, but they're like demons. They have a lot of abilities that are based around sucking up the souls of dead things. So they've got like several powerful creatures to use, but you only want to use like 1 or 2 of them, and then just throw hordes of zombies or skeletons at the enemy so that they can die, and then they can suck up their souls to use their really big abilities. And then there's one that's like a technological faction. They seem like they've time traveled back from the future. There's not really too much of a story here. Like, there's a little bit of a story it's trying to promote about like a great war and these magical towers and the weird stuff that they do. But I mean, there's nothing really to write home about. If you've ever played a game like this, you've basically played this game. The only thing that's any different than games I've played like this before is that there are spawners that you can create. Typically in games like this that I've played, everything comes out of your hand, and you either sort of draw the cards to play them, and you just have what you draw, and maybe you can discard, but otherwise, in order to do stuff, you just have to play the cards out of your hand that you've drawn, like Clash Royale, or you just have access to everything, and you build up energy over time, and if you want to play the larger stuff, then you have to save up, like the Titanfall one, or the Star Wars one that I'm drawing a blank on its name. But this one, one of the types of cards that exist are spawners, and you plop them down at your sort of starting position, and every so often, it's on a timer, it's like 20 seconds or so, there will be like a spawn wave, like, it's not represented very well. It's like these little rings on the spawner plots, and they will randomly appear, and they go through a cycle, so it's not like you can get them missed, but the pattern is random for every wave. So you place them down on this sort of grid. You can see it in a couple of the screenshots. Like, actually, the very first screenshot, that thing behind the crystal is the spawner plot. And you can kind of see these little rings that are lit up on it. And the more rounds you progress through, the faster the rings light up. And then once they sort of blink out, then if you've got a spawner sitting on top of one of those rings, it will spawn whatever is sitting on top of it. So, you put like some knights on there, and the thing blinks off, and they will spawn at your crystal and just start running across the whole map. So they're more of a long-term investment. If your goal is to, or not your goal, but if your strategy is to draw the games out a little bit longer, they're not very effective at the beginning, but the longer they're there, obviously the more troops they put out. So they're better for longer games. But otherwise, you just push your way across the map. And when you destroy your opponent's main crystal at their base, you win. It's got a single player and a cooperative mode where you fight these like stone legions. It's at least as far as I know, they're not a card that you can add to your deck. They're specific to the single player portion of it. So there's always something that you can do. You earn rewards and card packs and the coin currency from doing that. There's different difficulty levels so that you can, increase the challenge. But basically all the increased difficulty levels do are give the Stone Legion guy more starting units and increase the rate at which they will their spawners activate. So that's the only difference I've seen from the difficulty. The population for this game is super low. It's definitely using bots to play against you, even if you go into the versus mode. Like, they're very obviously bots. Like, one or two people that are really bad, sure, I could buy that. But the amount of very generic names and bad, stupid players at the low levels, they're definitely using bots to keep the...
Sounds like a lot of the mobile games that's multiplayer and sarcasm quotes that play every so often.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way there's that many people that are that stupid. I hope.
Yeah. Also, I hope. If they are, oh no.
It does explain society, though.
It would. Many areas of it. But otherwise, I mean, you spend the currency, the in-game currency, or, tons of that, or you buy some premium currency, or you disintegrate your extra cards to power up the ones that you're using, yada yada, blah blah blah. It's like every one of these games you've played before. I mean, I liked it. It's better than some of these types of games that I've played. It's also worse than some of these types of games that I've played. I don't know. If you like it and you want one of these on PC instead of mobile, it's not a bad one. But it's certainly nothing to write home about. Yep. Another one of those from me. I've played it a couple of times overall. I've only played it about an hour or so in total. And I've pretty much got the whole thing figured out. Like, there's no other modes. There's no, tournaments or anything like that. Just multiplayer and the single player Horde-ish type mode. So, Yep. Rise of Legions. Next game that I played, Space Mining Clicker. So this is one of those clicker games, obviously, it's in the title, but when I saw it, I was like, is this one of those games that tries to do something, like, interesting or weird or throw a twist at you? And it doesn't. It's an idle clicker game. It's got a sci-fi space theme. The screen is... It's not static, but there's no map to move around. There's nothing to do other than click on stuff until you have enough things to upgrade, to get the automation, and then just wait to get the resources that you need to upgrade. It sort of hints that there's going to be something interesting at a certain point. When you've completed the first few objectives, you get to choose a side between
Let me guess.
Empire.
It's a coat of paint.
Yes, it is. Between the Empire of something and the Alliance of something. I don't know. The names honestly don't matter. Because, it's just a coat of paint. You get bonuses. It doesn't take very long to get through this, and I found an exploit beyond just, running an auto-clicker thing. But I'll talk about that in a second. But anyways, so I played through both of them, and it's the same. You just get changes in the dialogue from it. Instead of it saying, we're the Empire, and we need you to do this thing for us as a mining operation because reasons. And then, the other one, it's we're the Alliance, and we need you to do this thing for us against the Empire, even though you're a mining operation, because reasons. And this same thing is the final mission, objective, whatever, is the same. There's a big super weapon ship you're supposed to build. And then you do that, and it gives you, some choices to do, but they all lead to the same thing. And it doesn't really matter which one you pick. And then the game ends, and it's thanks for playing. You can restart it. So, it's just
Why would I?
Yeah, it's just a very standard clicker game with, a sci-fi theme. And the only couple of things that it does different that I've seen from these other clicker-type games is it's got an event system that every 3 to 5 minutes an event pops up, and it could be positive or it could be negative. Positive ones are things like, something reasons you collect double resources while this event is up. Or, something reasons less cargo ships come to trade with you because pirates or something like that. And the events are totally random. You can get the same one multiple times in a row. You can get a bunch of good ones. You can get a bunch of bad ones. But you build these radar dishes, which you're supposed to only be able to activate once every 2 minutes. Each dish can be activated once every 2 minutes. And it gives a small boost or reduction. It boosts a good thing, and it minimizes a bad thing. But you can exploit this system, at least when I played. There's been 5 updates, so I don't know if they fixed it or not. But whenever you click on something, you can then hold down the space bar, and it will let you click a thing infinitely, even if it's only supposed to be clicked once. So these radar dishes, you're only supposed to be able to click them once, but you can actually click and then hold the space bar, and it will give you, thousands of clicks on it, and you can run out the timer rapidly, almost instantly on a bad event, or extend a good event basically an infinite amount of time. There's one good event, and this is how I broke the game. There's a good event that is it's called something like Mysterious Donor, and every few seconds you get 25% of your maximum storage of your resources. It's every 5 seconds you get 25% of your resource storage.
I think I see where this is going.
So you max out the resource storage, which is 1 billion for each one. Then that event pops up. You basically set it to infinite, and then it's sweet, I have infinite resources, and I don't have to click, and I don't have to worry, wait. Just have infinite resources. And then all you have to do is complete the missions, which are just build the thing, or sit through a certain number of events, or whatever. So, very easily exploitable, and that's how I played through it twice in just like 3 hours or something like that. It's not very good. Even if they fix all the bugs and then you can't exploit it, like unless they... And I mean, this is a fully released game. It's not like they're doing this as like an early access type of thing, which an early access clicker feels weird, but it's, 2019. You never know what's going to happen, right?
It's the current year.
So unless they have some big plan that they just haven't told anybody about to expand the game and make the choices system much more meaningful or something like that, then there's really no point to getting and playing this game. Even if it was like 99 cents, it's not worth 99 cents. There's just nothing here. It's a standard clicker game that is very broken and easily exploitable. And if they fix the exploits, then it's just boring. So, it's really sad because I've played several clicker games that I really enjoy because they do something weird or wacky or interesting. And I think they were trying, but they didn't get it right. Which is sad.
So basically, this game is what I expect all clicker games to be.
Yeah. This game is what you expect all clicker games to be. Except maybe you pay for it up front, so there's no microtransactions or anything. At least not yet. So...
Well, it is the current year, so don't count that out.
It's not begging you to spend money on space potatoes. And yes, that's what one of your resources are, is space potatoes.
Oh, somebody went and played Space Plan and thought, potatoes, huh? The potatoes.
Indeed. They played Space Plan or they saw The Martian. Or both. But that brings me to my last game, which is a full stop fucking recommendation. This game is called Your Future Self. And the more I talk about it, the more I'm going to spoil because it's extremely, extremely story heavy. Well, so I'm not going to say very much.
Point is about right for 1 hour to 2 hour experience.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say very much about it. But if you don't want to know anything about this game, don't read the store page. Don't read
I just read literally the first sentence of the store page.
Yeah.
And it says it's a short experience. So
it is.
That for $5, okay.
It is pretty short. I played it for about an hour and a half, and I finished the game. But, yeah. If you don't want anything at all potentially spoiled, just go ahead and go to the timestamp for the start of the news topics. This game is fucking worth your money and your time. Okay. Now, if you're still here, I'm going to do my best to minimize any amount of anything that could potentially spoil anything, but I couldn't figure out how to talk about this game without maybe giving a few things away. So, the game is a time travel game. The game puts you in a loop. They say it's a 90-minute loop, but the progress of the game causes you to go through the loop a lot faster than every 90 minutes. Actually, I'm curious if I just fired it up and left it sitting for 90 minutes, if it would reset or do something weird. But this is a game that reminded me a lot of Her Story, with a very interesting storytelling mechanic, a way that it uses the game mechanics itself to further the story. Like, if you look at the screenshots, you'll see these things that, like on the first screenshot, it says you on one side and your future self on the other side, and you have 3 stats. And and they're numbered. As you progress, you raise your stats, and that sounds very gamey, but they use it in a way that makes sense with the story that they're telling, as a way to like track the progress that you're making with what you're learning, and as you go through this loop and try and affect changes within it. I almost said something that was like a huge spoiler. This game is very hard to talk about just because there's so much. Because the story is... I mean, the story is the main thing of the game. Should we just make this a game
club game at some point?
It would be a good game club game. Even though I've played through it once, there's some stuff that I would like to go back and see if there are different outcomes that can be achieved, or if there's sort of Easter eggs, weird hidden things that happen. But yeah, I was very blown away by how good this little indie game was. There were a couple of things that I spotted coming. Like, I figured out a couple of the things about the game. I figured out one of the, air quotes, twists in the game. I don't know if it's because it was telegraphed too heavily, or if I'm just very familiar with this type of storytelling, and so I was like, oh yeah, that's probably the thing. It's, it's one of those things that's hard to say. Like, if you spot the twist, does that mean it was bad, or were you just in the right headspace? But I felt like it was very well done. Very, very well done. The only problem I had with it, the only thing I didn't like, is it has got the... I can't think of what the effect is called, but like, when you point a camera at a CRT and the refresh rate is off of the frame rate or the shutter speed from the camera, so you get that rolling line on the screen.
Yeah.
It's got that the whole time. It's frustrating. It's one of those things that they use mechanically to actually signal different things in the game. Like, you pick up on that at one point. But it was still really frustrating. I got kind of used to it after about 10 minutes. But initially I was like, oh, this is really bad. If this game isn't good, I'm like, it's going to annoy me. But like I said, then things start to change. And then I kind of got used to it. It's a really good game. Really, really good. I was very impressed. So... if you didn't skip by because you didn't want to hear about absolutely anything, and you're still here, like, again, go get this one. It's worth $5. I'm sure at some point it'll be even cheaper. It just released a couple of weeks ago. So this is one of those games that'll roll around on Steam for probably, 99 cents at some point, and buy it. The entertainment and enjoyment that you will get from this game is well worth that. In my opinion, it's worth $5 for sure, but I know that people value different things differently, but it's definitely worth picking it up on sale if you see it then. So yeah.
Yeah, I've also been trying not to pay attention because I do want to play it at some point.
Yeah. I try to be as vague as possible. I hope that anyone listening didn't pick up on anything. I almost said a couple of things. That's why I stopped myself. I'll cut out the pauses in the edit. But yeah, I stopped myself a couple of times because I almost said something that would give it away. But it's good.
It was all blonde geese the entire time.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, that is it for games we played this week. Are you doing all right? Or are you ready to move on to our news?
Stretch.
Okie dokie. Well,
stupid allergies. Just need to go clear sinuses. I'm fighting it off, but you never know, right? So,
indeed. So we'll take a little stretcheroo, and then we'll be right back. Google enters the gaming Stadia with our first news topic of the night.
Yeah, and you're welcome for that fun.
Yeah, and this one is a doozy. It's a big one. So today,
don't you mean they're changing the future of gaming?
Yes, definitely. So today as in today isn't day of recording, Google had their conference at GDC where they discussed their new, or revealed officially, their new gaming thing that they're calling Stadia. And I say thing because it's a little convoluted. Like, they kept talking about it having all of these different parts for creators and developers and players and things. And we're going to break it down a little bit.
Yeah, that's something I didn't add was the content creator to the subgenres. So there we go.
Yeah, this topic.
I knew there was something. Let's just put it this way: we're up to H in the alphabet.
Yeah, on our sub topics. So I guess technically this is A, the first one, which is overview. Just a very, very top down, very big picture look at it. Stadia is Google
Stadia
jumping?
Is powered by Google, essentially.
Yeah, there's more stuff to it, but the game streaming aspect of it, yeah, definitely on live. They kept discussing repeatedly or mentioning repeatedly, you'll be able to stream AAA games at 4K 60 frames per second right out the gate.
Yeah, good luck with that.
And discussing all of their data centers and all of their everything and their fiber.
I think the interesting thing is that this isn't using the public internet. This is using Google's intranet, their internal network, to power a lot of the multiplayer stuff.
Yeah, and all of the back-end stuff is...
And they're going to be running it out of their data centers. So this has a lot better chance in the U.S. than online ever did.
Yeah. Although, I was looking on the map about Google. So this doesn't have a list of all their data centers, so that might also make a difference to it. But locations where Google Fiber is available near to me, the closest one is Nashville, which is about a 3.5 hour drive. I'm not sure how many miles away Nashville is, but it's about 200 miles away from me. That's the closest one. So I'm just thinking like, because you still have to go that last extra bit using whatever ISP's network you're going to be going across.
Well, it's such a shame that Google doesn't have, let's say, a map of their data centers. Oh, wait. And so that I didn't add to the link. So it is being added now. So the closest one to the both of us, I think, would be Berkeley County, South Carolina. There's Montgomery County, Tennessee. So there you go.
I don't know where Montgomery County is.
Oh, it's in Tennessee.
Well, yeah, but Tennessee's actually a pretty... It's not like a huge state, but Tennessee is very long. It's very long and narrow. So Montgomery County could be over closer to Memphis, which is like 600 or 700 miles away from where I live.
Montgomery County, Tennessee is, wait for it, Clarksville is the county seat. It is up against the Kentucky border about halfway across the state. Or no, about 1/3. It's northwest of Nashville. So cool. There you go. That'd be your closest, and probably mine as well. Because I'm just looking at these other ones that they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the Americas. This is assuming that it runs out of all their data centers. So Berkeley County, South Carolina, Colonial Bluffs, Iowa, Douglas County, Georgia, Jackson County, Alabama, Lanier, North Carolina, Mays County, Oklahoma, Montgomery County, Tennessee. Well, they include South America in this. Quickoria, Chile, and the Dailies, Oregon. So there's only one in the West. And there's only one in South America. So, yeah. But they did say that they're planning on launching in the U.S. Most of Europe, which they have Ireland, the Netherlands, Denmark, Finland, and Belgium. So, I would say that would cover most of Europe, don't you?
Yeah.
The UK, which I love that they separated those two during the announcement.
Well, it's very pertinent given the political climate there.
So, yeah, I think they're running out of all their data centers. So it wouldn't surprise me if they start popping up more data centers. But, that requires them to lay down the fiber, which, it's easier said than done.
Yeah. So Montgomery County, depending on exactly where it is, about 200 to 250 miles away, depending on, exactly where it is. But anyways, so I mean, that's, in terms of like, I guess data travel across, if there's other fiber networks between me and there, that's not terrible, but, then it has to go to local, and we were doing some fun experiments with trying to stream like 4K YouTube videos and things like that.
Yeah, because they said that essentially if you could, let's see, so the US Gamer, if you could run 4K YouTube videos, you could run 4K Stadia games.
Yeah, and I could do 4K 30 YouTube videos fine, but 4K 60...
I was hitting a CPU bottleneck, but I was able to download it fine, so I'd be good to go on my connection. It would just be the encoding. Because that's
Yeah.
actually a lot of video data.
Yeah, that's a ton. And there's more than just video data it's having to deal with, depending on exactly how they do it. Because, I mean, it has to deal with, player positions, and it is going to be... I know it's a very tiny part of the stream, but your movements and things like that, like, all that's got to be taken into account.
And
to
controls and everything else.
Yeah. But anyways,
we're kind of segueing into the service itself. So the main meat of it is, well, they haven't talked about pricing, which is, goes down to another portion later, but we'll talk more about that later. But it is a streaming service that you could latch onto from. They showed pretty much every device imaginable. They showed a smart TV using Chromecast. It was.
Yeah.
They showed a phone. They showed a very low-powered. They called it a Pixel book, but netbook.
Yeah.
And then they showed a low-end PC running it. And what was interesting was that the instance that they kept logging into, it was constantly updating the save file. So he would move a bit on the netbook, switch over to the phone, and continue from there instead of starting from a save file. So it's at least depending on the game, a persistent, always updating save file. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, particularly depending on the type of game, right?
Yeah, because you could wind up in a situation much more easily where you get back into like an unwinnable situation. Because I'm sure everyone's had that save that they've made that's been really bad, but they didn't know it at the time. But, they can't get out of whatever situation that they're in.
Yeah, there's a reason why I started if a game supports it, I pretty much fill up all the save slots.
Yeah, I use a rolling save system for all RPGs and things like that, just in case.
I usually do about 30 to 40 saves on a rolling system. Because then it just starts to get a little ridiculous. But it also depends on the size of the saves, because modern gaming has gotten really inefficient on just how much the disk space they use, which is something I do want to highlight as well, because they talked about using essentially multiple CPUs, so crossfire, crosslink, whatever you want to call it. And that makes me a little concerned that games built for this system are going to be trapped on, because remember when DVD started really hitting the mainstream and developers stopped trying to be efficient with their memory usage?
No, actually, I don't remember that.
Oh, well, I guess I'm old then.
Maybe I'm old.
But when disk space started to become less of a premium, you started seeing developers being less efficient. As a matter of fact, the first Titanfall, to save CPU cycles, and massive sarcasm quotes, they had how many gigs of uncompressed WAV files?
Oh, it was a lot.
And it was for every single language on the PC version, because they just had the disk space to eat up otherwise. So, it's that sort of thing. I'm a little concerned about them, not being as efficient. So, a game that tries to transition, that's built first party for Stadia, is going to be essentially Crysis, or the new Crysis that nobody can run for like 20 years at full power.
Yeah, except for Google themselves.
Mm-hmm. And they were talking about how many teraflops each one of their GPUs is. It's like, what was it, like 5 times the modern consoles?
No, it was a single one of their GPUs. They were saying was more powerful than both PS4 Pro and Xbox One X combined. It was like 10.7 or 10.9 teraflops, which is a measurement that is nebulous
Completely
at
bullshit,
best.
Yeah. Because it all depends on architecture and how it's used.
Yeah. I mean, they were showing off some pretty impressive stuff that they were doing, like real-time rendering of water and things like that, and they were showing a comparison. But that is on something that was custom built to show off that technology. So real world application, I don't expect to look that good, at least not at first.
Yeah.
But it is still impressive what what they can do when it's optimized for.
Yeah, and I do think it was rather impressive, the demo of them going between the different screens, essentially, because let's just call it that to simplify things, and having the persistent save file constantly updated. It's just I have that worry of like an RPG would hit a unwinnable state because of it, especially if they build it where the Stadia version doesn't have the traditional save file because of something that it's kind of a creator thing, but kind of not, where certain games will have a shareable link that you could generate.
Yeah,
I'm just going to throw it into here, but we can talk about more on creator tools as well, where it creates essentially a snapshot save file, and you're able to share it and be able to pick up in that game at that state directly. It's like a save state in an emulator, passing that along. And they showed it like a challenge mode or some sort of speed run idea. It's an interesting thing, but it highlights the save system of it's a constantly rolling save, at least on some games. But you could also use that as a save scum feature as well, which kind of also takes the challenge out of some games, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I love save states for that, though, in emulated games and certain titles. Like, it's like, well, I know this is tough, so I'm just going to save, and I'll save scum and not have to deal about it. I mean, that's more of like a how you feel about the game personally. Yeah. But, yeah, like when they
it's
said...
interesting, though. That's the thing. It's an interesting concept that they are throwing into this.
Yeah, they called it state share, and I was like, are they just making it where you can share save states? And then that's what it is you can share save states. Now, I mean, the system they have for it, they made it sound like, and I could have misunderstood, because, they were doing a lot of developer marketing speak throughout this whole thing. They did make it seem like, though, that you could create a save state and then tweak things about it, like very small things, and then use that to create challenges or things like that based on the save state. Because they were saying, like, you can tweak, you can adjust small things in your state, like health or
it
ammo
also depends
or
on
whatever.
Game. They specifically said, certain games would support this. So this isn't going to be a service-wide thing, but it's an interesting thing in the service. Because on Live, it's the biggest analog that we have to a service like this right now. Never had anything like that. There was no real social aspect to it. And they're building a lot of social features into this.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And we'll get onto that a little bit later with the content creator stuff.
Yeah. Going back to their demo that they showed off going from screen to screen, they talked before like how snappy it was. They kept saying within seconds, and I'm sure they did something to help optimize it. I'm sure that their connection speed was great there. But, I mean, it really was just a few seconds between each one, and sort of extrapolating that out to real world where, your mobile connection is not the fastest. I mean, you couldn't do this on 3G for sure, but, maybe I'm sitting in my office and using my office Wi-Fi to play a game, and then transferring it to my laptop to do that or something like that. Like, I could imagine it swapping over in between 5 and 10 seconds in sort of more normal conditions instead of, what they would have set up to be as optimal as possible. Mm-hmm. And that's still really fast to swap from game, to swap it over. And that would be enough, or that wouldn't be enough to deter me from wanting to swap out if I was going to use this service. So I was impressed with how snappy it actually was. Again, real world, we'll see how far off or how close to the mark they get, but even if it takes twice as long as they were showing, during their demonstration, that is well within acceptable limits for me.
Yeah, that like I said, it was an impressive demo of them going between the different screens.
Yeah.
Was there anything else by the service itself that caught your eye?
I don't think so. Not without getting into the sort of the other topics that we've
Yeah.
singled out, like the content creation stuff and then their potential business models.
Hmm.
But, we'll get to those in a few minutes. Or
So
a
should
little
we
bit.
talk about the controller itself? Because this was on the docket last week and we didn't get to it.
Yeah, because there was like a rumored design. I don't remember what the topic
It was
was
from a
exactly
patent.
last week, but okay, yeah.
Basically, somebody discovered Google's patent, and well, we found out what the controller's for.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There's some things I like about it, but there's some things I hate. And let's get on with what I hate about it the most. It's a Wi-Fi controller.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Yeah,
For latency issues.
It's not a local controller. It is being used directly to their servers, which in theory could be a lot more stable because it's a different data stream. But if you're having a connection problem, well, you have two connections now that are having issues. And also, if Stadia doesn't take off, well, you have a useless controller. Well, in theory, I should say, because there's always the modding scenes. But it's a little weird to not have it be a local controller. To be fair, OnLive was a thing, so OnLive's controller hooked into a local box, but having it be Wi-Fi as well is it makes it so that it has to have some sort of dedicated connection. So if you have it on your phone, for example, well, you're going to have a Bluetooth controller for that because your phone's not going to, well, unless you set up as a hotspot, it probably won't connect into it.
Yeah.
That's opening up a whole nother kettle of fish.
Yeah, although there are some apps that use, like, I forget what it's called, but it's one of the Samsung apps, or maybe it's Android, where you can like transfer all of your phone's contents via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. And instead of both of them having to connect to a Wi-Fi network, it just looks for the phone's. I don't exactly know how it works. It hooks into something directly on the phone.
Oh well, if it's smart switch, I hooked mine just via cable when I was switching.
Yeah,
it did do some sort of high frequency location, like it was a dolphin or something. That was weird.
They did say that this system is going to work with any controller that you already have, and also keyboard and mouse.
Yeah,
so you don't have to get it.
But... which brings the next point up. I still have stuff I want to talk about the controller, but it's going to make the next point a little bit more interesting.
Yeah,
but the controller, one thing I kind of like about it, even though I'm not sure how I feel about it, is the fact that it has Google Assistant built into it.
See, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
I found it interesting in the fact that it's not the full Google Assistant. It's going to be directed by the developers, so it could be a more targeted thing for hints. And in theory, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about it in total, but it's something different because the other thing that they highlighted was the share button.
Yeah, so the Google Assistant thing, I don't like that because it feels exactly to me like what the voice commands for Connect were, and
but you also
the
have to
touchpad.
Realize, well, you have to realize two things. One, voice commands have has come a long way, and two, you're not shouting across the room.
Yes, but the thing, like, it feels very tack-on gimmicky to me. Like, could you use it? Well, sure. But with these sorts of things, in my experience, is they are very tack-on gimmicky. And, maybe something can be done with them. Like the PS4 controllers, the touchpad thing. That started out very gimmicky, but it's come a long way and is an extremely useful feature of the controller now. Whereas, the Kinect and most motion controls for the Wii and some other stuff that I've seen like that, just kind of died after a while. Because they were just gimmicks.
Maybe it's just because I've been using my Echo Dot a fair amount during the day. I'll yell at it for a grocery list, for example. And it's actually fairly decent yelling across my apartment. So, Google's don't have really any experience with because I just switched the other one whenever I switch to a new phone, and I'm keeping from saying her name so I don't awaken her.
Yeah, the Google Assistant is pretty good. I use it pretty frequently for lots of sort of productivity tasks. So
And
I'm not
also
like coming at this as like, oh, it's terrible. Like, I use it pretty frequently. It feels very gimmicky to me the way they're implementing it.
Yeah,
And, I could be wrong.
and I think it's meant to be a gimmick to for developers to play with to try to add some sort of added features here. And they also showed it as a search tool to be able to try to get through a tough area of a game. Which, it be able to recognize where you are in the game, because they didn't give well, I'm in this dungeon, this here. It's using current player location, so there's more metadata going into the Google Assistant than you would be able to ask verbally. So I think it's. I think you're being the curmudgeon here for once. Potentially.
Maybe.
It's interesting. That's why I didn't say that I absolutely love it. I find it interesting on how they could potentially use it, but also do recognize that it is a gimmick, at least right now. It just comes down to how much effort the developers are willing to put into it.
Yeah. Maybe this is one thing where I actually do have more experience than you, and that's why I'm all cynical about it. Because as someone who did have both iterations of the Kinect and a Wii and a Wii U and go through the motion control stuff and, all those, like I've been there for the last few gimmicky things and have seen how they've turned out. And I'm like, this is just like that, a little different.
But I also
but
recognize just how far voice command has come. And the fact that you're holding the microphone in your hand, instead of trying to talk over the television.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're making a lot of fair points. I'm not saying you're definitely wrong. And, maybe this is maybe the technology is at the point where it goes from gimmick to being something that's just integrated. But, my past experience makes me very cynical towards this because it just feels super gimmicky to me and like it's going to get dropped after the first few, maybe after the first set of
other
games.
Thing is that potentially we're going to be seeing the next series of consoles trying to integrate some sort of voice commands. I mean, Microsoft has Cortana.
Yeah, they've already got Cortana. They've already got that covered. I don't know what Sony's going to use. Does Sony have a voice assistant?
I don't think so, but that doesn't mean that they can't license one.
Yeah. I want to talk about the design of the controller itself.
Yeah, it's essentially a DualShock controller that's been kind of stretched out, hasn't it?
Yeah, it looks like they were like, well, the Xbox One and PS4 controllers are both very popular. What if we make one with both of them? Because it's got the layout of the DualShock, but instead of the the touchpad on top, that's where it's
it has a few extra buttons. It has Google Assistant. It has the share button, which there's not much to talk about there. I mean, it's a share button.
Yeah, and then it's got the thumbstick layout of the DualShock controller, so both thumbsticks on the bottom with the D-pad on the sort of the top left, and then the 4 face buttons on the top right. Mm-hmm. But it's bigger, it's fatter and chunkier than a DualShock controller.
Yeah, and it looks like maybe it was just I didn't get a really good look at it, but it looks like somebody took a DualShock and just kind of started to rip it apart, and it was kind of melted, so it just kind of stretched out instead of ripping in two.
Yeah, that's where, because when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's just like the Xbox controller. Wait, no, it's not. The thumbsticks are in the wrong place. Actually, it's more like the PS4 controller. Not really. It's too big.
You got your Xbox controller and my PlayStation controller.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, all of these controller designs are fairly homogenized these days. I think, between your sort of two main design philosophies, which are the PlayStation and the Xbox controller ones, everything sort of conforms to one of those two to a certain degree.
Yeah, and really the only difference between Xbox and PlayStation these days is just the D-pad and one thumbstick.
Yeah, which personally I prefer the Xbox layout with the left thumbstick higher, but that might just be because I was an Xbox gamer for so long that's what feels most natural in my hands.
At one point, and they stopped producing it, I had a controller from Satec that had a module that you could swap around to the Xbox controller scheme or the DualShock controller scheme, and it had an okay D-pad on it, but they stopped producing the damn thing, and mine broke.
So, yeah, I don't know if I'd ever get the controller. Maybe.
Definitely not for me.
And I'm not saying that because I think it's inherently bad or anything. It's just I don't need it. I have controllers, I have keyboard and mouse. If I'm ever going to use this service, I don't need that controller. I've got Bluetooth controllers. I've got controllers that have little dongles that can plug in and pair, and wired controllers. I got everything. I don't need the Google one. So I don't know. Maybe if they're cheap enough, I might buy one just for the novelty of it. But in general, I don't need it, so I probably won't buy it.
Which brings us to crossplay.
Indeed.
The fact that they're throwing everybody into one pool potentially is interesting. We've seen this happen before. It didn't end well, but it happened.
Yeah.
Microsoft has tried this a couple of times, throwing PC gamers and console players in the same kiddie pool.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they're going to handle multiplayer, because they talked a lot about split screen technology coming back, because they're able to just render and that much stuff. And they also this kind of goes back to the whole service thing, but showing off different ways developers could use multiple cameras as well into almost some sort of weird command screen thing going on at one point.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Actually,
yeah,
I'm into that.
If it's done well, it could be really cool, but it could be very confusing as well. But the fact that they're talking about potentially throwing everybody into one pool, maybe they didn't really talk that much about crossplay outside of just no matter what system you're on, you can play together. Which for some games, that doesn't matter. A racing game not going to matter, because the PC gamers are going to be using either game pads or full-on wheels and setups like that. But first-person shooters, and the fact that one of the launch titles they are talking about is Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
Which, bold move, for Doom, because Doom is like it's the triple whammy. It's fast-paced. It requires a very low latency on controls. And there's a lot of red. No. I'm not joking about the lot of red because of how colors.
I know that suffers from compression. Yeah.
Yeah. The color red actually gets the lowest amount of memory in video compression. So there's a game that has a lot of red in it, or a movie that has a lot of red in it, has a lot higher chance of being pixelated no matter the resolution, just because of how compression works. It's something I've noticed, doing some streaming movies. Matter of fact, talked about when I was watching The Martian. Oh, well, that red light is just a bunch of pixels because of how they did the compression. There's not enough memory for it to render out all the little nuances of different shades of red. In between that and all the light from that particular light source made it just a red giant pixel. So for Doom to be a launch title, bold, very bold.
Yeah. I don't know how. I mean, the only couple of genres that I can think about where it really matters a lot is shooters and an RTS.
Yeah.
But I think most games and genres have shifted so much over the. I mean, there were certainly plenty of genre or game types where I don't think it would have mattered as much anyways. But I think that just stuff has changed a lot, and that doesn't quite matter as much as it used to, except for a couple that have very clear major advantages to keyboard and mouse over
I would say
controller.
The strategy genre in general, more than just RTS, but also ARPGs. You're going to have more precision with a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, but I don't think ARPGs. I mean, those tend to
Well,
be more cooperative than competitive. I mean, I know that there are competitive
sure.
ones out there, but they tend to be more
Well, I
cooperative.
was trying to throw out another genre, but also, well, you may be right on just the fact that there's been a shift away from shooters being the big thing in gaming these days, outside of battle royale, which
Yeah.
that's going to be a problem because they were pushing battle royale rather heavily, talking about 1,000-player battle royale. Which,
Yeah.
could you imagine that netcode if the netcode for PUBG and Fortnite can't handle 100?
Yeah, I'm out. I don't want anything to do with 1,000-player battle royale. Not that that's necessarily a bad idea or anything. That
It's
just
an
doesn't
interesting
interest
idea.
me at all. That sounds like my nightmare scenario.
I
Oh.
think being forced to play battle royale in general is like a nightmare scenario for me. But it
So,
was something that they were highlighting, and the fact that battle royale right now is kind of the big thing, though. It's not FPS; it's most of them are third-person shooters. So technically correct on FPS not being the big thing, but how are they going to handle that?
yeah. Don't know. Guess we'll have to find out if it happens. I don't think it's as big of an issue as it used to be, just because of the larger diversity of games and genres that have gone online and have added multiplayer elements and an increased familiarity with the general public of how video games work. I mean, definitely there would be some problems on some specific genres for sure, and I'm sure there's some stuff that I
But the
can't,
thing is that those are some.
foresee.
Shooters are a very popular genre still, even if first-person shooter isn't exactly as popular as it used to be.
Yeah, I see this though being huge for like sports titles, like that genre that we don't think much about because that's not probably the only or one of the only genres of gaming that's not in our wheelhouse. But think about how many people play sports games across various platforms, and I don't think that's a genre. Any of those games, football, baseball, basketball, golf, tennis, soccer, that really the control input matters all that much. In fact, maybe even in those types of games, the controller would have an advantage. The analog nature of the control might give
Most of
somebody
those
an advantage in a sports
are
game.
leaning towards an actual controller over keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
So yeah, you are right in that. I guess
So,
I'm more focused on where crossplay would be a problem than where it would help. Because
yeah.
I remember, oh, now I'm blanking on the damn name of the game. It was a Vista exclusive, which also was kind of the kiss of death for it.
Halo 2.
No. No, the one nobody remembers.
Right,
They
that one.
threw control. They threw full crossplay into it, and it was a disaster.
Shadowrun?
I think it was Shadowrun.
Shadowrun had crossplay between PC and console.
Yeah, and the PC players were just decimating it. But yeah, I'm just I'm a little concerned about it, that's all. Because I've seen this before.
Yeah. I mean, there's pros and cons to it. There's definitely going to be games or genres that suffer from it. There's going to be ones that benefit, but I think by and large, it's not really going to matter all that much. I think the people that know,
I think where it matters is going to be, where it really matters, where it's really going to be a problem. And maybe Google will say, okay, well, full crossplay, but we're going to segregate by controller input on these titles.
they also could just throw up a warning like, hey, this type of game tends to benefit from players on keyboard and mouse. You're using a controller. You might be matched with people with keyboard and mouse. So, I don't know how they're going to do it. That's one way. They could just segregate, but, they said full crossplay. So if they segregate, there will be a group of people that will be like, oh, you said you were going to do this. And it's going to be a thing, so... I don't really have anything else. So, content creator tools?
Yeah, so they showed, we already talked about essentially save states sharing, but also the lobby system was interesting. Do you recall that?
Yeah, wasn't that where they said that if like you're watching a streamer and you want to join a game with them, you can queue up
Yeah, essentially,
into their
to use the old arcade analog, put your quarter on the table to queue up for it.
yeah. You know, I don't
It's
stream anymore. I was never a popular streamer to begin with. I don't know if I would like that, but I'm sure there are streamers out there that would, to increase audience engagement and stuff.
Yeah, they were really trying to push some of the streamer stuff. And they were focusing more on the fact that you could do a challenge mode with the save states sharing than anything else. That it felt like that entire section of the talk was more for this is for the people that have more than 1 million followers, right?
Yeah.
Which was a little disappointing that they took that angle, especially with the save state. But the fact that for a game night we could be streaming it and people could jump in a lot easier is interesting. But unfortunately, it requires a actual stream going on. But if they expand that to the entire lobby system, that would be very interesting.
Yeah, that would make it interesting to play games that have, a very common limit on the amount of people playing. It's something like 4 or 8, something like that. You have more people playing, it's like, well, I guess we can just all like take turns or whatever. But with this system, you can just sort of queue into the lobby, and whenever it's your turn, you get dropped in, and then you just go back into the queue. Like, I like that idea. I think that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. That was the only real creator tools I could remember. Was there anything else? They said that there's going to be more details later on for most of these systems, though.
They were saying that if you were... Oh, what was it that it was doing? If you were streaming, or if you were playing and you were like saving it or doing a content creation thing, it would put a video on YouTube as well. I don't remember exactly how that went.
Yeah, this is a shot across the bow for Twitch. Because if they try to lock us to YouTube, that's going to be some serious trouble for Twitch.
I think that if it's you're recording something for content creation, you can set it up to where that it also streams. That way someone can watch it live.
Yeah,
live unedited version.
They also specifically said that you have full control over this. It's not always a thing. And they also highlighted the parental controls, which is not quite content creation, but it does show that they are thinking about this. Unlike some certain other storefronts.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think.
It was more them highlighting these couple things that was neat.
Yeah. And obviously the share button. Don't forget about that share button.
Oh, yeah. The social media button.
They had MatPat on stage, too.
Mm-hmm.
Which, whatever. MatPat's all right. I've never met the guy. Don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy in person. I like some of his content. Other of his content I don't.
I think I watched a little bit of his stuff, but I can't recall.
Yeah. It was interesting, though.
They did highlight, well, he has more than 2 million followers, so, he's important. Let's bring him out.
Yeah, I think MatPat has got more than 10 million followers.
Or did they say 10 million? I kind of roll my eyes whenever people talk about how many followers somebody has before they bring them out now.
I'm looking.
They probably said 10 million. I just, the sound from my eyes rolling just made it sound like 2.
Yeah, it's currently 11,453,417.
Yeah, I probably should have some eye drops. My eyes are that gritty.
Yeah. Anyways, the one thing I was going to say, I just thought it was funny when he came out, the difference in listening to someone who does this for a living versus these big executives talking. Like, I mean, obviously they're reading a teleprompter. I think this is the first time I've ever really noticed people reading the teleprompter doing these. Mm-hmm. I don't know if just everybody was nervous or if the stream, the camera was focused a lot more on their faces.
Times, especially whenever they were talking about stuff, that I saw the stream kind of jitter. And I was just thinking, boy, this doesn't bode well if your stream on this announcement is doing this.
Yeah. But then Matt Pat gets up there, and I mean, this is what he does, you know? So he just was, like, going through his thing. He might have checked it one time noticeably. So, yeah, I just, you know, had a little chuckle at that. Not because it's bad, just like, yeah, this is what a pro at this looks like.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of people who seemed nervous on stage today, which I get it.
Well,
I get it.
Google, this is a big announcement for Google. I mean, think of all the metadata this is going to bring in. I
just took a drink. I nearly spit it everywhere.
I didn't expect it to get that big of a laugh.
No, that was good.
But that's not wrong.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one... You're
going to have to keep that noise in.
I will. I'll keep that noise on. So the next the next thing to talk about is cheating.
Yeah, they targeted cheaters in one part of the conference, and there's been a couple articles of them talking about how cheating is going to be a thing in the past with this. Really? That there's no such thing as man-in-the-middle packet editing that's going to be fully encrypted?
Yeah, I don't... I actually
you do not challenge cheaters.
No, you don't do that. Someone will break it very quickly. Within 2 weeks, someone will have.
Oh, you're thinking it'll last that long? Well, I guess it does depend on how much encryption they have on the data stream. But yeah, saying it's cheat proof is a bold statement.
Yeah. Good luck to them, I guess.
Yeah, and I kind of want to almost throw in modding on this as well, because that's kind of it's not a feature on a lot of the games that they showed. Well, except for that one where they kept changing the art style, which I'm not 100% certain what was going on with that, because I was trying not to develop a migraine when they put Pac-Man on. Oh, damn. Or do you recall that one?
No, I recall that. There was a little bit of time where I wasn't like fully paying attention to the stream. I was doing something else. And I think they started showing those backgrounds and talking about whatever that tool was to like machine learning to like very quickly apply art styles and things like that. And I just kind of zoned out from that for a minute.
Yeah, and then they started applying different essentially masterpieces, classical art. And then they put Pac-Man on it, and it broke the game. But they were talking about how awesome it was, but that was terrible.
Yeah.
But there's not going to be a lot of modding possibility unless it's how Bethesda wants to do modding. A paid workshop.
Yeah.
Which, for a lot of the games that they highlight, it doesn't really matter. But the games that are pushed for modding is either going to be severely crippled on the service, or they're going to have some sort of third-party storefront to bring in mods, and that's going to be very limiting.
Yeah, I don't expect very many things, if any, on this service to be moddable, just because they're doing everything on the back end. Like, that's the thing. It's all done on Google's side, and I just don't imagine them saying, okay, you can have your own, what would it be, instanced version of this game that you're able to apply mods to. Like, I just don't see them doing that. Like, this isn't the system that you do to go for that customization.
Yeah, this is for a very this is for games as the developer intended, and they actually used that phrase several times, talking about the graphics, the graphical fidelity, be able to just max out everything. But it also swings back around to be able to apply mods, be able to cheating on a personal level where you're putting in a cheat code or doing a memory edit. So this is as the developer intended, for good or for ill, and that's why I'm kind of throwing modding on this as well. Is that this is a closed system? This is a walled garden, and that has both the benefits and the drawbacks.
Yeah.
Let's just put it this way: I wouldn't want to play Skyrim anyway, but Skyrim on this would be a lot less fun. I think that's
true, but I could play it on my phone, and but why would I ever want to do that? I don't know.
Well, we'll talk about that in our next major news topic.
Yeah.
Teaser.
So the next sort of one of our the last one of them before we get to our sort of final thoughts on the thing is the model, business model and things like that. They did not announce any prices for any of this.
Or how it's going to be set up in general. If it's going to be an a la carte, if it's going to be a subscription, or a combination thereof. I think a combination is probably the best bet for this.
Yeah, I do too. I think Microsoft and EA, both with Game Pass for Microsoft and either EA or Origin Access, depending on which platform you're getting it from, is sort of setting the the standard for this, which is you pay for the subscription, and with Microsoft it's just one flat subscription. There's no levels to it. Origin Access has different levels to it. There's like a basic and a premium that gives you different stuff.
Yeah, I expect the EA model, a tiered system.
Yeah, but then so you get you pay in for the monthly fee or yearly, depending on how you do it, or how they set it up, and you get access to whatever their library is. Let's just say 100 games. You get access to those 100 games to play. And if you want to buy one of those games to have when it goes out of the rotation, then you can buy it for a big discount. I think Microsoft I think it's like 50% off if you have it on Game Pass. Maybe it's 30. It's pretty big. It's between I think a 1/3 to a 1/2, price reduction. And then Origin actually doesn't have a discount for the regular. If you have the premium, I think it's where you get the discounts if you buy the games, and the standard is just access to the games. I might be getting that wrong though. Their tiered systems are weird, but I think that's the model that they're going to go with. It just makes the most sense for the market.
There's other models out there. I think Battle Nonsense did a video on it, and I'm actually going to double check, where he showed some of, at the time, the options for cloud gaming. And yeah, it was Battle Nonsense. It was 6 months ago. He's going to have to do another one now, talking about the different models that they had. And there was one that was essentially the full subscription. You get a set number of games that you get, but then there's some that are token based, that each token is so much amount of time. There's some that's just pure timer based. And I think if they do either of those, that's a kiss of death for most players, because it's the old metered system that just never worked for dial-up. That's what dial-up did before they went to a flat-up subscription fee. It was a metered system, and people bitched and moaned, and people eventually just went up to the point where it was a monthly fee, and it kind of just relegated the old metered system. And it shows that I'm fucking old that I know about that. But
nice.
I do expect them to have a tiered subscription fee, and I'm not 100% certain where they're going to set the prices. I think that's going to be that's the mystery right now for me. If they're going to go, copy EA's prices exactly, or if they're able to strike enough deals with major publishers to be able to push up the price just a little bit. Or the other option here is, and I did kind of jokingly say all that sweet metadata, but they could make this a loss leader and, tie into their advertising thing, because that has been Google's thing for quite a lot of their services, is make them, mostly pay for themselves, but not quite. Look at YouTube. YouTube has never turned a profit, but it is an advertising platform. It is a metadata generating platform. Could this be one for gamers?
Potentially. I hadn't thought of it that way.
You thought I was making a complete joke about that metadata thing, but no, I actually have given it some serious thought. And the moment when they talked about the Google Assistant, and it knowing exactly where you are to be able to say, how do I do this tune? And it's able to do a top search result based on the player's location. That tells me that they are sending a lot of locational data and a lot of data based on your just general habits in the game, which I imagine developers would love to know, because think Red Shell. Think how many people were pissed about that.
Yeah.
All these data breaches, all these different companies finding out to be snooping around in various data files. Epic, for one.
Yeah.
So
I don't.
Yeah, I think there's going to be, the metadata is going to definitely be if not a reason for them to cut down the price, that little carrot for the developers.
Yeah. That's interesting to think about. I don't think it matters all that much, though. Not from, like, an ethical perspective, but from just, like, a realistic perspective, like where we are with how much metadata is collected regularly, is out there all the time.
There's no way to read every single terms of use anymore.
Yeah. I don't think from a practical or a realistic standpoint that matters anymore. I think we're past the point of being able to do anything about it.
Oh yeah, well past it. I have a live microphone sitting about 6 feet behind me that's constantly listening to me.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that is interesting though. I hadn't thought of it that way.
I mean, they have to be collecting at least some metadata on the players just for the Google Assistant to work like that.
Yeah.
Even if it is a highly targeted version of it for that particular game. So,
you know, something that I just thought of is that Google has got their, I forget what it's called now, but it's where you get, you pay the subscription fee and you get access to Google Play Music Unlimited or whatever it is, and YouTube Red as part of that. I wonder if this will get added to that package. You just pay for their ultimate subscription. Yeah, you just pay for that subscription.
Yes, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because we do that. We've got the family subscription so that we can all share apps and games and audiobooks and movies, and then have YouTube Red and Google Play Unlimited or Music Unlimited. So it would be interesting if that gets added to it or becomes another tier of that service. I would imagine that they would just add it at first as like, for a limited time you can have access to Stadia. I keep wanting to say stadium. To Stadia. With part of your Google
Greek for stadium.
Yeah, well, there you go. But yeah, just a part of your whatever for a limited time, and then try and get people, the first hits free sort of thing. But I wonder if they do that as well as part of their business model.
Ancient Roman or Greek measure of length about 185 meters as well. What?
Nothing.
I remember there was a second definition that I didn't really look at. I just knew that it was referring to an ancient Roman or Greek stadium, but it turns out to be derived from the foot race in the stadiums, and that is the length of the race was 185 meters. I have a feeling that the trend for use over time on Stadia is about to go through the fucking roof, though. Because I'm looking at the trend line on this. And it has like 1800s, really high. 1825, it's starting to fall off. And it's been pretty much flatlined since like 1890. Not anymore.
Yeah. But I can't think of anything else to discuss from a business model standpoint.
Not really for me either. It's kind of a wait and see right now because they danced around that way too much for me. I think that there's not going to be a lot there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Also finalizing deals as well, so they couldn't talk about it.
Yeah. So final thoughts, closing thoughts.
It's a very interesting thing. It's looking at their map for their data centers, though. It's going to be hell to try to play in California. But maybe this is not a U.S. centric idea because I have the tendency of thinking in my own backyard. What can I say? It's a fallacy. But you were right whenever we talked about this off air that, maybe this is more of a, going to be bigger in Europe, where online actually had or on live, I should say, had a bit of a better following, but they were never able to really keep afloat because it was their only thing. Google is able to swallow the cost if need be. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot more successful than OnLive ever was. But that's not exactly saying much now, is it?
Yeah. I like this tech. I like this idea. A long time ago, on one of the first episodes of the show, in sort of the lost episodes that didn't make the transfer from the old RSS to the new one for reasons. I talked about this, like the sort of a future of gaming thing, where I was like, I think at some point you're just gonna have, one device that just streams everything over the internet. Something that's
wrong. It's not even a device.
No, it's not even a device. But I was in sort of the right ballpark. Like, you weren't going to have any physical anything. It was just all going to be streamed over the internet. And I was thinking like a phone, whatever phones are like in the future. And that just streams everything from the internet to your TV or whatever. But, they're just skipping that part and making it where you can stream it to every device. And I do think that for mainstream video gaming, this is probably genuinely the future of gaming. The big question is this the right time for it? Are we too soon? Is the tech at the right time? And what you said about the internet is a big one. There are places in the world that have really good internet. Lots of places in Europe do. There are a select few places in the United States that do. Lots of
when my internet
Asian
works, it holds all sorts of ass.
Yeah. Asian, a lot of Asian countries have really good internet. And I think that this service is probably directed more to those places than just me, someone who lives in a rural area who has okay internet, but nothing, spectacular to write home about. Like, this service is not for me. They can say whatever they want, but this service is not for me. That's not yet. So
I saw one article, and I didn't add it to the docket. It was a lot more critical, where it just looked a lot more informative, just to give us the facts. But it was Google announced. Trying to think of the exact wording of this, but Google announces Stadia, a great idea for 2050. And I don't think 2050 is probably a bit far off for this type of idea, but at least in the U.S., with the FCC being absolute dickbags, I don't think it's going to be as stable as it needs to be in the U.S. unless Google is willing to put out a lot more infrastructure. And is it worthwhile? I mean, that's the thing. Is this going to be a worthwhile investment? Maybe, maybe not. It really depends on just how well this takes off. And the U.S. has a problem of being very spread out. The U.S. has... What's the actual population density of the U.S.?
Oh, I don't know. A quick Google search will reveal it. 35, well, in 2016, 35 people per square kilometer.
That's, not a lot, actually, is it?
No, but it's one of those things, too. Like, you look at the population heat maps, there are huge concentrations. I mean, this is prevalent in any country, but in a country like the United States, which is so large and spread out, there are huge hotspots where that population density is extremely high. But then there are plenty of low spots where it's extremely low. Like, I don't remember the exact numbers, but there was a YouTube video I watched from Wendover Productions that discussed this at one point. And, like, there's areas in the United States where population density is, like, less than one person per square kilometer. And then there's areas where that it's...
the population density?
in the in the 20-something thousands, you know, like per square kilometer in places like Atlanta and New York City and, you know, things like that. So,
Yeah, but Atlanta's cheating. I mean, having a parking lot kind of raises your numbers.
and I mean, really, that's all Atlanta is, just a gigantic parking lot.
An oven.
That fills up twice a day. Actually, that's not true. It's full all the time. It never empties out. I've driven through Atlanta a bunch of times. But, yeah. Anyways, I think 2050 is a little bit being snarky, you know, just for the point of it. We'll get there faster than that. I don't know exactly when, but I think we'll get there faster than that. But,
yeah, I think,
you know, I think this service...
this is going to be one of those morbid things, but I think as the older generation dies off, and there's even more of a focus on the technology sector, I think it's going to be a lot more pressured to get a better infrastructure for the internet in the United States. And it's one of the things that I think it's just, you know, the old curmudgeons, which I realize at times I can be one of them, kind of holding back technology in the U.S., where they think, oh, the internet, why would you want to have that?
Yeah. I've said several times on this show, if there was a presidential candidate or, you know, more local, maybe statewide candidate for me or local candidate, that their whole platform was like, look, my whole thing I'm going to focus on is internet and network infrastructure reform. You know, getting fiber out there across the country, focusing on net neutrality and things like that, making that hard, legal, you know, whatever the right way to say it is.
Yeah, it all depends on how the law is written on that one.
Yeah, but if like that was their whole focus of their campaign, they would have to be really terrible in a lot of other areas for me to not vote for them. Because that's, I mean, that is one of the biggest things of the future, that the United States is lagging behind in most areas.
Yeah, that's something my state has tried several times of doing a partial fiber network in the main river valley, which I live in. Matter of fact, last week they announced a 200-some mile deal with Google to lay fiber, and part of it is through the Kanawha River Valley where I live. So who knows? Maybe I'll have fiber one day, because they talked about it opening up the access to the middle mile for ISP. But the thing is, you know, the big ISP here is a cable provider, right?
Yeah, same here.
But the other thing is, yeah, the monopolies in the U.S. that run rampant, especially on the ISPs.
Yeah.
Which Google tried to do something about, but they got blocked on every single front, it seemed.
Yeah, the same with EPB here, which is Chattanooga's local municipal fiber internet provider.
What, they just get blocked?
Oh, yeah. Hardcore by the state legislature. And I mean, EPB kicked everyone's ass in Chattanooga and the area that they expanded to. It's crazy how cheap you can get fiber internet and TV services and phone and stuff for.
Yeah,
and
that's what I mean by, you know, as the older generation dies off and more focus is put on that. The politicians that block this will eventually get booted out of office. It's just a shame that, you know, technology is one of those things that's got... Why the hell is technology a political statement? You know, being pro technology. U.S. politics is just stupid.
Yes, it is.
But you were saying, sorry.
What was the... I had another thought. So, anyways, I was talking about, you know,
the fiber
actually being the potential future, you know, this actually being the potential future for mainstream gaming. The thing is I want to try it. I want to give it a shot. I think I see a potential use case for it in my house, you know, with my kid, with my wife, who, you know, enjoys certain games occasionally. I mean, my kid's getting more into gaming, probably in a couple of years if he really, he's still a little too young. But soon, if he sticks with gaming and he, wants to do it more, I'm gonna get him into PC building and do a build with him and stuff. But I could see a case where he would want this service instead of, wanting, having to be tied to specific hardware, generational differences and all that stuff. But I don't think that I fit into the target market for more than one reason. Jim, one of our listeners, Jim3535, posted a funny little
Venn
diagram. But it's got some stuff listed, and Stadia doesn't fit any of the stuff.
Yeah, people who don't play anything under 100 ping, people with no data cap and a very good router, or who live alone, and people who don't like G-Sync, FreeSync, 120 hertz monitors, THC, modding, Twitch integration, LAN, or ownership of the things they buy.
Yeah, and Stadia's in the middle, and none of the circles cross in the middle. But
which he's not wrong.
But that's why I said I think that this is for the more mainstream, the more general population.
Or is potentially the buffet gamer like myself that likes to try a little bit of everything, but doesn't want to go hardcore into a game.
Yeah,
it also depends on the model they're using as well, because depending on the model, it could be absolutely terrible for it.
Yeah. But I still want to try it. I want to see what it's like, and I hope it does well, honestly. The gaming space could always use more competition. I think if anybody's going to pull off this whole thing, the combination of, making a streaming service work, all this crazy back-end tech that they're talking about, like, in my mind, there are two companies that can do this, Google and Microsoft.
Who do you
and
trust
Microsoft
more to do
is... No. But, what choice do we have? But I mean, in my mind,
Apple.
Those are the only two companies that can. Apple, no, definitely not. And also, Apple couldn't do it. I know Apple's a big company, like compared to lots of other companies.
I was being sarcastic.
Okay, but yeah, I don't think Apple could do it. I don't think Amazon could do it. Amazon's probably a third.
Yeah,
there might be some companies that I'm not aware of that are large enough to do it.
Which integration of Amazon did this?
It would be terrible. At best, it would be terrible. But, Google and Microsoft are the only two companies that come to my mind that actually might have a shot at pulling this off right now. So, if it's going to happen, not necessarily now has to be the time, but if it's going to happen sooner than maybe like a decade away, I think Google is one of the only people, or one of the only companies that can do it. And, good luck, guys. I genuinely don't want this to fail, because I think it's got more positives, more potential than it has negatives. Because there's pros and cons to everything. But I think this has more good than bad if it succeeds.
Yeah, and I think you've covered pretty much everything for me. I'm maybe a little bit snarky on this, particularly with the tech. But I don't want it to fail, but I also don't want it to be the only method to play games in the future as well. I'm going to have options. That's part of the reason why I'm pissed with the Epic Game Store, is that they take away options through force. If this is an option to play games, and they did talk about a first-party developer in-house to develop games for this, so there is going to be a potential carrot to draw people in, especially usually the first party stuff on a platform is your what draws a lot of people in. It's the Half-Life for Steam, for example, or pretty much anything EA does, because they don't put anything out on anything but Origin. And we never really talked about them doing that, but then again, they didn't really talk a lot about that. Just they were doing in-game development as well. So it does look like Google is committing to this pretty heavily. Now the question is, will they stick with it if it doesn't take off immediately? That's my real sticking point with this. Because this is not going to be a cheap venture. This is going to cost a lot of money. This is going to be tough to get off the ground, because this is essentially a second layer to the digital revolution in gaming. Because think about it, there was a bit of resistance for the general public whenever digital gaming became more mainstream and you no longer really had physical media. Well, now you're potentially not even owning the license to the game you're playing. You're going into a subscription. While that has been kind of eased into with EA and Microsoft, this is going to be kind of going all in. And there's also going to be that kind of balking with people that remember OnLive or have tried some of these other services that honestly, if what I recall from the Battle Nonsense video, wasn't very good. So while Google has the horsepower there to be able to throw at it, it's going to be a uphill battle, I think, in player perception. And it's just going to be how long can Google stick with it before they try to give up. Which I do think Google will persist with this. I don't think this is going to be, 6 months they give up and that's it. I think Google will go long term for this and eventually make it work. It's just, how long does it take before the service becomes more mainstream?
Yeah, I think they'll stick with it too. I don't know where sort of their cutoff point is. Obviously, I have no way to know that. But, you're saying this is going to cost a lot of money. Yes, this has definitely already cost a lot of money.
I mean,
so they're going to try and get.
They did the test run with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. This year, Project Stream. So yeah, they already have at least part of the infrastructure in place for one game. So it's more of a question, just can they work out all the kinks? Where the latency of control, can they get it to an acceptable level for the general public, especially in those gaps in their data centers? How are they going to handle those gaps? Are they going to try to produce a new data center, or are they going to essentially a hub there to get into their fast network? There's a lot of unknowns right now, especially in the U.S., because they sounded like they wanted to expand this pretty quickly. But it's easier said than done, especially when you start bringing local governments into these things.
Yeah.
I mean, Facebook, using the example for that, has been trying to strike a deal with my state, not to build a data center here or anything. It's literally a pass-through cable. It took them years to be able to strike this deal. And it's literally just connecting Virginia and Ohio with a couple places where the local ISPs would be able to splice into it to get high-speed internet for the middle mile. So, it's all about the deals that they can strike for expansion. And that's, that makes me worried about how quickly this will expand over time. But, I do think it is the future. It's just the question of, at least in the U.S., when are we going to get off our asses and actually get to I guess we should say the 20th century, since we're in the 21st now.
Yeah. Yep.
Makes me wonder how many people are in the U.S. are still on dial-up. That'd be a hell of an experience, huh? You're Googling this, aren't you?
Yep. That article's from 2013.
Well, here's a 2015 article that says 2.1 million still use AOL dial-up. 2016 says 9.4 million across pretty much everything.
Go away, video.
So yeah, there's still people out there with dial-up internet. That must be like digital hell, huh?
Yeah. God, dial-up sucks. I mean, it was great a long time ago when that was...
Everything was text-based.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to download a single image on today's compressions.
Who was it that did Nostalgia? Not Nostalgia Nerd, but...
Techmoan, 8-Bit Guy.
No, neither of them. I mean, maybe they did one, but I haven't seen it. No, there was somebody who did, an internet on dial-up. Like, can you still use the internet modern web browsers today on dial-up or something like that. It was terrible. Not the video. The video was great, but trying to use a computer on dial-up was terrible.
Yeah, now I'm trying to find it because it sounds familiar.
Nostalgia nerd. It was Nostalgia nerd. Using a 56K modem in 2017. That's the one that I have seen.
Yeah, speaking of nostalgia, that dial-up noise, huh?
Yeah. Like, on the one hand, I kind of like the noise, but on the other hand, I hate it.
It's up
but I had dial-up. I had dial-up for a long time. All the way up until the mid-2000s. When did we get high-speed internet? 2007? Yeah, 2006, 2007. I was in high school when we finally got high-speed internet. It was terrible. Back in my day.
So, speaking of the interwebs, should we move along?
Yeah.
This is an article or a thing that Steam is putting out that's kind of lining up rather nicely with the major news that we ended up talking about way longer than I expected. Was that they've essentially untethered the Steam Link. So that now, as long as you have an internet connection that can handle it, you could play a Steam Link game anywhere. And just to test this out just beforehand, before the recording tonight, I updated my Steam client and I was playing Yakuza 0 because that's like my test bed game right now. Mostly because it has a lot of reds in it. Yes, I know. I'm hung up on the reds. I sound like a Democrat, don't I? Sorry. And plus it's high up on my recently played list, so it's a good game to grab. So I was streaming it to my mobile phone, but the mobile phone was not connected to my Wi-Fi network. And it actually ran fairly decently. I mean, to be fair, 4G is not meant for that type of video. So, it wasn't exactly buttery smooth, but it was playable. And if I took my phone to somewhere that had decent Wi-Fi, I could see it being actually playable for quite a few games. So this is actually very interesting. And this is kind of the alternate way to do gaming on the go, huh?
Yeah, I haven't tried it. I didn't even hear about it until you mentioned it to me today. But I might try it out at some point. I just don't know when I would use it other than to just like try it.
At the office?
Maybe, but my internet at work is not great. I mean, like if I had access to the full bandwidth there, it would be great because they've got fiber. But they throttle
you don't like
everyone
oatmeal
because there's. I don't hate oatmeal, but it does have lots of carbs in it.
Yeah, it would kill you.
But everyone's throttled to 40 megabits, like every connection, and there's
if you have
over 100 people connected every day doing stuff all day.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a possible use for you, especially if it's a game that doesn't have a lot of motion in it, because that's the thing is that you could limit the frame rate.
Oh god, I could play BattleTech at work finally. It's over. I'm getting fired. Thanks, Rage. You just got me fired.
Well, to be fair, it's not the dumbest way you've gotten fired.
No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, I'll try it at some point.
It's just it kind of lines up rather nicely, and I've been toying around with the hardware version of the Steam Link, and after getting a couple of the nuances with my particular system, it actually works fairly well over the local network. So they do some actually really good compression to be able to do it over actual interwebs. So it's it's interesting just to see it kind of this come out at the same time that Google basically just walks in and takes the news cycle, huh?
Yeah.
And I have
took the whole news cycle. We were on that for a very long time.
Oh yeah, we were on it like 3 times as long as I expected to.
Yeah.
But I have seen some people showing off how they've been playing different games there was a video I saw earlier today that before I saw this article of them playing Breath of the Wild at a college lecture with a PlayStation 4 controller.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that on Reddit.
Well, it was using Moonlight, I believe, but it's the same idea. So yeah, it removes the tie of NVIDIA cards because that's what Moonlight requires. So yeah, anything really here to talk about that we haven't wouldn't have already covered with Stadia?
Yeah, I don't think so. So it's almost 12:30. Our other two news topics, and how long have we been recording for? Oh God, nearly 3 hours. And Game Club. You want to peel those off?
Oh, you mean Discovery Queue?
Or yeah, Discovery.
I was about to say
Sorry,
Game Club. Oh shit.
No, not Game Club. Discovery Queue. That was my bad. I fucked up. We're doing it live, as always.
You're about to turn into a pumpkin on me?
I am about to turn into a pumpkin on you.
Alright. I guess we could let you go then.
We will put those on and see if they could go up next week or if they'll get forgotten for whatever next big news topic there is.
Sorry, what? Huh?
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 What? Huh? All right. We will do Community Corner really quickly. There's... we didn't get... I'll say we didn't get anything worth putting up.
Yeah.
I'll say it that way. But just a reminder for everyone, next week's community game night is going to be Minecraft. And like I said last week, we've got some of our community members have a server that has been up for quite a while. I don't know if there's a plan to work on a project. There was mention of that previously. It has not come up. Maybe I'll try and find out and then post in Discord if there is like something that's planned to be worked on. I think everyone's just going to dick around and just hang out for a couple hours. So you feel free to drop in if you want to, and don't if you don't, I guess. We'll talk about getting a couple weeks planned out ahead again. That way next week can let you guys know what the plan is for the next couple of weeks. I know that we've got some ideas. I don't remember if we said actually on the recording or not, about Galaxy Trucker.
Yeah, I need to look at how the board game is played.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be
and some other
Company of Heroes this week.
Yeah, I got to do that too.
I try to, but I'm finishing up the game, within a few days of the recording, so it's pretty fresh in my mind.
Yeah,
it's not procrastination completely.
It's planning.
It's the other P.
But there's been some stuff that other people have mentioned along the way, but that was just an idea that we had based on Rage's enjoyment of Galaxy Trucker. So, but that's not set in stone yet. We got to learn how to play and make sure it works well on, I guess, tabletop and stuff. But anyways, we'll get some stuff, another 3 games planned out, and I'll let you guys know about that next time. Where can they find us, Rage, if they're going to send us emails to the show?
Well, you can find us at VGLpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, gaming-related topics, or you just tweet them to us, VGL Podcast, on the Twitter. And shall I go ahead and just do the complete outro?
Yeah, hit him with the socials, Rage.
I've already done the socials, so if you wish to help pay for this absolute madness, or the Stadia podcast, it seems, this week, you can find us over on patreon.com/VGL Podcast, which our lovely, lovely patrons pay for our website, VGLpodcast.podbean.com, where you can find the show notes, our RSS feed, links to all our stuff, or you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, or your podcatcher of choice. I've been Caffeine Rage. You can find me over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage on the YouTubes, Gaming with CR on the Twitter, and eventually, when I get back around to it, over on Twitch, Caffeine_Rage. And you have been
Gaming Psychologist. You can find me over on YouTube by searching for Gaming Psychologist, on Twitter at JMA4707, and on Steam at jarthur4707.
And if you also wish to hit them with the password for the week, the password for this week is infrastructure. Infrastructure.
Nice.
One of the weeks that, it's pretty obvious what the word should be, right?
Yeah.
And also what's obvious is our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod. You can find his work at incomputech.com. And
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
see you next time.
Bye-bye.